Your brain runs the show. It's a superstar. Everybody knows this. Without the brain, what are we doing here? However, there is a design in the brain that is severely underappreciated. It's built-in bouncer, the blood-brain barrier. Now, many people think that your brain just soaks up whatever's in your blood and going up to your brain. But here's the wild truth. Your brain rejects almost everything. You could say it's playing hard to get. And if anything is to pass by this bouncer, it's going to need some VIP access. I graduated with an engineering degree before becoming a medical doctor, and I've spent years geeking out over how incredibly designed your body is. So let's geek out together on how the bouncer in your brain is filtering blood so well that sometimes it's frustrating for people trying to design medications to enter the brain, and also those who are trying to prescribe those medications. We'll do this in 3 simple sections. It gets very cool. Peak cool. Section 1. Why does the blood-brain barrier exist? Your neurons that make up your brain are very fragile, they're very delicate, they're very impressive in what they do, but they can get hurt. So that means that toxins that are in your blood, or even an overzealous immune cell, could hurt your neurons. So the barrier acts like a bouncer, it acts like armor, it acts like a security system, etc. Filtering blood, blocking invaders, protecting your neurons from chaos. Now that we know that, let's go to section 2. How does it work? To start, we need to know how it works in other areas of the body so that we can see the pure genius in this part of the body. Here's what a typical blood vessel or capillary would look like. So imagine we just cut one in half. Here are your endothelial cells, right? And then your nuclei, 1, 2, 3, and then your blood, obviously the chaos that's in the middle there, and your blood vessel, your capillary is going back this way. So here you have space in between these endothelial cells where this blood can just leak out, right? Now that we understand that, let's go on to the cool capillaries. 6 things that we're gonna go through here in full color, and I'll explain it in a way that's very understandable. So let's talk about your bouncer. Cool capillary, we can already see a difference here. You see these ends of the capillary cells are touching each other, and those are called tight junctions. And it's exactly what it says. They're tight, they're very tight. Actually, they're really cool. They've been friends since childhood. But they have proteins here that link these ends together, and they actually are connected to the cytoskeleton of these cells. Cytoskeleton are the proteins that exist within cells and give them their structure. So it's not just like, oh, we've got little proteins right here that are holding on to each other for dear life. No, I want you to avoid imagining 2 friends holding hands like this. And then maybe, oh, if they pull hard enough, no, I want you to imagine 2 friends interlocked like this, and their bones are connected to each other's bones. Good luck tearing them apart. Conjoined twins, essentially. These friends are so tight that water molecules cannot pass through. Yeah. So we can already see that everywhere else in the body, there are some things that can slip through. But we already have a tight junction that's preventing a lot of stuff from slipping through. Let's go to the second part of the blood-brain barrier. Purple pericytes. Peri meaning next to, cytes, a cell. Pericytes. In other areas of the body, pericytes will contribute to vessel stabilization, so they can help your vessels constrict. Also some permeability, so how much stuff is able to actually pass through. But that pales in comparison to the pericytes of the blood-brain barrier. That alliteration was not planned. In the brain, these pericytes are much more dense, so they help with the physical barrier itself, first of all, but then it also helps with other modulations like that permeability or the transcytosis. This is like it's saying, hey, stop it. We need to stop that. This helps with that signaling. And in the brain, these have much more influence on the immune cells and telling them like, hey, you stop it. You are not allowed in here if they're coming from in the blood. Because they're saying, we have our own system going on in here. Glial cells. And there's specific ones that we're not going to talk about today. But part of the glial cell system, it's what we're about to get into. Astrocytes. Isn't that sick? Astrocytes, think of stars, because that's what these look like. Let me show you. Here's your macro version, zoomed out version. And a lot of astrocytes come together and work as a team to wrap around the capillary. And then if we drew lines going back this way, we would see this covered in green because astrocytes are covering everything over here. All right, this next one is one of the coolest things in my opinion. Efflux transporters. Efflux just means out, like going out. Like influx coming in, efflux going out. What's so cool about these efflux proteins? They are all designed to say if there's anything in here that passes that bouncer. We are going to take care of business. So they recognize that something's not supposed to be in here, and then they just send it out. It's called ATP binding cassettes, or ABCs is what they're called. But just know efflux transporters, and you'll be able to wow your friends and family. So it's like return shipping. They say, no thank you, and then you send it right back to the blood. Basically, the bouncer's just saying, no, get out. And we talked about efflux, so now we must talk about influx. Selective influx transporters. Same thing the other way. They say, oh yeah, you're friendly, I like you. Like they say, glucose, we love you, glucose. Come on in, we need you. You need carbs. Your brain runs on glucose. Here, there's something called GLUT1 for glucose molecules to get in through this because your brain uses like 20% of your glucose. You're a thinker. And there's another one called LAT1 for large amino acids, and there's just more and more of them. So it's just basically the bouncer in your brain saying, yeah. And the last thing, number 6, that I want to talk about here is low expression of leukocyte adhesion molecules. What does that mean? Leukocytes, your white blood cells. In other places of the body, they will attach to areas with leukocyte adhesion molecules, and then they'll be able to move out of your blood because they've attached to something on the endothelium, so these cells, and they'll move into the interstitial fluid, so the space outside of the blood but not in the cells, so that they can do their work. So it's saying, yeah, you can keep your immune cells, body. I've got a special force. So we see the incredible design of your bouncer, but what happens whenever things go awry? And why do things go awry? And how do things go awry? And when do things go awry? And who do things go awry? So section 3, what this means for you. The same wall that's keeping out lots of toxins needs to let some things through. So like carbon dioxide and oxygen, those can both just diffuse through the wall, and there's nothing special that needs to help them get through the wall. They just go through it. But other things also do that too. This wall is permeable to lipophilic molecules, or things that can be dissolved in fats and oils. So in a previous video, I've actually talked about kernicterus in newborn babies, and that's caused by bilirubin, but if you want to understand that, go and look at that video. Bilirubin is lipophilic. It loves lipids, and it's hydrophobic. It hates water. So that means that it can actually go through this without any help, and then it can damage the baby's brain if those bilirubin levels are way too high. So always make sure you're bringing your baby to the doctor as recommended. And there are other molecules that go through that blood-brain barrier, and the big one, drumroll please, is alcohol. Now don't click off of the video, you need to hear this. This is good to know. So in the short-term setting, alcohol passes through and enacts its effects on the brain, but in the long-term setting, alcohol can actually damage those tight junctions that we were talking about here. I mean, one of the many reasons why we say you need to be careful with alcohol. Everything in life in moderation, especially things that are toxins. But it's also interesting that a lot of medications that we want to pass the brain, they have a hard time passing the brain. And scientists are working on treatments that will help pass that blood-brain barrier easier, because lots of those medications that we want to get to the brain, the blood-brain barrier says no. Or it recognizes, oh, this is in here, this is not supposed to be in here, get out, with those efflux proteins. But scientists are figuring out clever ways to sneak past the bouncer. Fake IDs, different passages, etc. Like using the olfactory nerve, so the nerve in your nose, it goes through the cribriform plate and it goes to your brain and it can pass the blood-brain barrier. Give these people their credit, because they got big brains. So your bouncer, the blood-brain barrier, is both genius, fascinating, and frustrating. You're cool, real cool. Peace. What'd you think? Was that cool? You were so attentive the whole time. Yeah, you a good boy.